And now we get to introduce ourselves.
Okay.
So we're recording, Jessica. Who are you, Jess?
Hi, I'm Jess PS. I'm a teacher at Dragon's Breath Yoga Studio, and I'm also a cognitive neuroscientist and a musician and a mom.
I love Jess PS. That's actually hashtag Jess PS for anybody watching. And I'm Darin. I am the chief dragon, and I am the dragon behind the breath of Dragon's Breath Yoga. And we're here tonight to talk about this really fascinating topic, boundaries. Boundaries, and how we all need to create them if we want to step into our full potential as nurturing healers, parents, friends, coworkers, teachers, students, you name it. Like, how do we fully live our boundaries in order to step into that most nurturing space of ourselves?
Yeah.
So here we go. Thank you for joining us.
Yeah, thank you for doing that.
Thank you for joining me, Jess. So we're I'm going to take a step back and just also add the disclaimer that while we both are fairly logical thinkers, and we are both high-functioning empaths, in these conversations, Jess will be taking the mental fortitude of it, and I'll be taking the heart fortitude of it. And I think that that's actually a really crucial determination because we both work on those planes, right? Like you work in the heart plane, I work in the mind plane. But my go-to comfort zone is the heart plane, and my hunch is your go-to comfort zone is the mind plane. So that's where we're going to play with this. So boundaries within a mental prerogative. Boundaries. What does that even mean, Jess?
Yeah, so that's what's been coming up for me for especially the past few days, and I've been thinking about, boundaries as drawing the container of what I consider to be loving and safe. That's how I'm thinking about it. And I think this is something that, we can define in many ways that are beautiful and poetic and useful. I saw somebody shared something recently of boundaries, the concept of boundaries, not as a wall, like a brick wall that you put up and no one can pass through, but as a door that opens and invites someone in, given certain constraints. And I was like, that's really interesting. I like that, right? We don't usually think of boundaries as an open door. But it didn't fully resonate with me. You know what I mean? It worked in a certain context, but I think that when I think about my role as a mother, as a teacher or a leader, it's really about kind of like setting up a container and saying, and welcoming people into that container and saying, like, when you're in here, you're safe and you're loved, and those, but those boundaries have to be safe and loving, not just for you, but for me.
I'll add on that, and you could definitely speak to this as well. But as a yoga teacher, one of the first lessons that we learn is to not overstep boundaries with students, right? Like we need some sort of separation between us in order to fully embody the beauty of that relationship. And I think that anybody who is in a role of caregiving, whatever that caregiver role is, we all need to have those boundaries set up. So we have this line, this very legitimate line drawn in the sand, saying, this is me, this is my time. And then when I cross this line, that's open for you. And I'll, as a non-parent, I will ask this question of a parent, like, how do you even begin to make a boundary with children in this like really fascinating and challenging time?
Yeah.
I'm just going right in, Jess. I'm just
dive right in. Yeah, it came up because it's Mother's Day weekend and we were talking about that. But I think drawing boundaries clear and safe and firm and loving boundaries with children is really hard work. Mm-hmm. It's really hard work. And it's not just hard because raising children it's hard. It's hard because when you're raising children or you're involved in caring for children, they hold up a big mirror to you and they expose, a lot of the things that we find creative ways to avoid. And so it's hard on a lot of levels, but I think I always come back to, the ultimate purpose of being a parent is that you're in this very important sacred relationship, and that we all can identify with, right? And so for me, raising my children, that's the most, to me, that those are the relationships that carry the most weight, right? Those are the relationships that I feel the most sense of responsibility and also the most awe and inspiration. But I think we all can relate to that idea that when we care, when we are in some way caring for people, it's very delicate. And it's also something that I think it takes constant work, and it's also like a moving target, right? So those lines in the sand that you described, they have to be drawn. And then you find one day in your relationship, it has to budge that way a little bit.
There's waves crashing the shore.
Totally. It can get totally wiped away and you have to redraw it. And that, I've been through that quite a lot with my children in particular, because I have one child with trauma. And so there are times where, you try to set the limits of what you consider loving and safe and nurturing. But then when somebody is in a place of great, great need, you reset, right? But the other thing is, and this is what's hard for me, is that I feel like when it comes to me as a teacher, as a coach, in any of those roles professionally, even as a mother, I feel like I have a lot of skills in setting those boundaries. Then when I think about me and my relationship with my husband in this during this whole journey, especially right now where we're all together, it's like, where the fuck are my boundaries? Like, where do they go? Like, in other words, I feel like I'm exploring this and really interested and really committed to it. And yet I'm also living in this moment where I'm seeing my sense of firm and loving and safe boundaries challenged constantly. And I imagine that I'm not alone. I imagine that people that are living with their partner or with their child, or just dealing with a relationship where maybe you're not in the same space, but you're managing your relationship during this time, it's very hard. I feel like many of us don't really know where our boundaries are right now.
Well, yes. Emphatic stamp of yes.
Right.
But I think what I loved hearing you say was that, it's this moving target, so to speak, that we don't even know. And I kind of want to like pivot here. And we discussed this pivot, and I think it's an appropriate time to pivot. I think the moving target is also with how we take care of ourselves. Mm-hmm. Right? Like if you are, and I'm in a totally different environment. Like I have a bulldog, and it's just she and I, and you have a family of 4 that's, all together all the time. So when we look at what I need to do in this moment right now in order to show up for these people later on, I think that that's the story that really needs to be told, because we don't know moment by moment what that is.
Yeah.
These are really fascinating times, and they're bringing up so much crap in all of us.
Yeah.
Yeah. So how would you deal with a moving target?
I think that for me, a lot of what it has become, a lot of what I've learned over, 10 years of parenting, has been really about expectations.
Mm-hmm.
So, whereas once I held certain expectations about how, life should be, how the day should go, how things should happen, once you have a newborn baby or a child with needs, those expectations can go out the window. And so for me, I think dealing with the moving target is a lot about going into each day without very specific expectations about what the outcome of that day is going to be. And instead going into every day with really specific expectations about how I want to show up and be loving and caring. And I also have to say, and I want to be real and honest too, that a lot of my days right now are really beautiful in that I am, fully there for my family, and I'm doing what I can to work, and I'm doing my best. But there are also moments where, it gets to me, and the way I show up is, it reveals some hurt, some loss, right? I don't feel any pressure to lie about that, right? I had an experience recently where, I was expecting to get a day of work, and I'm the primary caregiver, so I don't get to work right now. I just don't. And, that's different for every family, but I have a child with special needs, and that's how it is. And so, and I thought I was going to have a day to work, and I didn't. And I just felt it's hard to describe how devastating that was, and I really lost my boundaries that day. I lost my sense of self, right? Just in that moment, in that one day, I was like, I can't work. I can't be myself. I can't do what I need to do. And I have real commitments to follow through, and I don't not have a job. I have a job. I have a grant that has to be fulfilled, but it wasn't just that. It was also that I overstepped my boundaries in how I reacted with my family. I really blew up at people, and that's, in my experience, being someone who's a caregiver in any sense, not just mothers, but people that are caring for others, is that will happen, right? I mean, either people will overstep your boundaries, or the circumstances will. And that's what we're dealing with right now a lot, right? A lot of this is not anybody's fault. It's just what it is. And so we're going to experience a real loss. And I think parents who are at home trying to do their jobs while taking care of their children and school them and whatever are in a very particular situation. And I also feel that all of us who are in the position of caring for people, like you have a studio of people who practice yoga and teachers who teach yoga that you feel responsible for. And it's really hard to care for them right now in the ways that you're used to doing. And so even if nobody specifically takes advantage of your boundaries or there still is not that sense that you can be the provider, the caregiver that you really are.
I'm going to jump in right now and just say, like, there's like, that was a beautiful like opening to it. But there's been moments when like I haven't felt like I could show up for other people,
right?
Because I wasn't showing up for myself. And it's a frustrating space to be, especially as a studio owner. And I'm sure it would be the same as a parent. Like, having this utmost desire to show up for teachers or children or insert fill in the blank here, and just like not having the emotional drive to do it. And I say that word very specifically. It's an emotional drive for me. It's on the days that I am burned out and not taking care of myself, and I feel like I have very permeable boundaries. Like it's literally like I just don't want to show up. Like there's no drive to do that. You
Yeah.
know,
And what makes the boundaries permeable? I mean, why do you think there's that?
I think they're permeable because we think that that's how we have to be a caregiver.
Mm.
Like we have to let everything in, and then we don't let everything out. Honestly, like that's in the statement. You know, like Anna Forrest, my teacher and creator of Forest Yoga, which obviously resonates with me and quite a bit with you as well, has a phrase about creating a warrior's heart, and she does use the phrase warrior heart, is not about like opening your heart so much that somebody in a semi truck could just like plow right through, but it's just opening it up to a place where you allow those that you need to let in, and you can also filter out what you don't need. Right. You know, I think that's actually a key step in the fact that, as primary caregivers, like how much do you filter out? How much do I filter out? Not much. Mm-hmm. Like I have a team of teachers that I love, I would fight for, I would kill for, and it's not very yogi, but like I have to be able to set up a boundary of just like, wait, like you kind of have to do this one on your own because that's where we are. Yeah. And that goes against caregiving instinct, right?
It can a lot. And I think, I definitely identify with what you're saying. And there's a lot of trust and letting go involved in saying that. And yet I also think that part, and this too, that part of the caregiving instinct is the knowledge that, we're here to care forever, but not take care of you forever. Right. So there is a certain amount of like, there's a great deal of work that goes into being there for people in the ways that set them up for success on their own so that, they go on without us. And that alone is hard. And it's, we're used to doing that work under circumstances where things feel a little more normal, right? Where we're used to the routines and, the amount of togetherness and the amount of separation. Like right now, I feel like I'm in a position where I have too much togetherness. Families are stuck in the house together and you have too much separation because you're not with your teachers and your students. But I also have that, right? And you are, and you may have the opposite as well. But I think that, coming back to the point that you made about the boundaries being kind of permeable, I think that they're always going to be, right? Because that is the bound. It's, I guess in that sense, the wall door analogy makes sense, right? Like there are openings. That's part of our job. But I think the challenge that we face right now is to kind of reinforce or even redefine the feeling of boundaries right now, the feeling of safety and love and availability right now in whatever situation we find ourselves in.
I want to jump in. Like, sorry, I'm like totally like excited about something right now. I want to jump in really quickly because like I love how we're both kind of like narrowing in on permeability, like the boundaries that we set up. Like it's got to be a give and take, right? Mm-hmm. I have a wise teacher who took. I was on retreat with her last year, and she's just such a wisdom keeper. And she's a wisdom keeper about love, which is at the end of the day, like that's what we're discussing here. Like this is what we're talking about right now is love. Love for self, love for others. How do we give? How to receive? And like one of the key lessons I remember her giving me was, we think of love as a give. I give you love, Jess, but I expect you to give me some love back. I give you love. I expect love. I expect love. I give. Like it's this give and take relationship. And she honed it up to, like love is actually this like fascinating field of you just give it, and you get some back, and you may not get some back.
Yeah.
And you may get some back and you don't give it in return. Like it's not a give and receive. And I think when we look at the permeability of boundaries, I think that that's a crucial thing to look into and feel into, because, we have this expectation that says that if I set my boundary here, you will not cross it. And like that you is like, a child, a student, a teacher, a friend, a mother, a brother, a father, a sister. If I set my boundary here, you're not going to cross it.
Right.
And at the end of the day, it might need to be crossed.
Yeah. It's free.
And actually, and at the end of the day, like the other thing might happen where it's actually further out than you said it.
Yeah.
Because we don't know. Like that's the beauty of like playing with love, is that we don't know like what that boundary actually needs to be.
Yeah. And that's kind of the nature of relationships, right? Is that you've got yours and they've got theirs and you're negotiating constantly. And then when you talk about a group, like, if you're multiple people living together in a family, for example, it's even more complex because you've got all of these different things going on at the same time. And I think you're right. I think that it's, I like the idea of love as a field. I mean, I was thinking, it's not really something that you have to give and you have to receive. It's there and we share it, right? Mm-hmm. Love is there. We're made of love and we share it. And I think one of the things that's helped me as a parent, and even as a partner, is to say like, okay, this person is full of love and I know they're showing it. How are they showing it? Right. And I get better at seeing how they're showing it instead of like looking for the ways that I need it to be shown. Right.
Yep.
Because I mean, that's one thing, again, that's beautiful about having either a partner who's very different from you or a child, like they're like, the child doesn't come into the world to like boost your self-esteem.
Sure.
Right. It's very different. So it's really a learning experience about like discovering how love is just given naturally, and discovering our deep capacity for love and to keep digging deep, and to keep like saying, even in hard, and especially now in hard times, right? Like really challenging times, getting really down to sort of the essence and the point of all of it, which is that like, we're in this together because we love each other. We're going to get through this because we love each other. And my boundaries are going to be, they're going to feel like nonsense right now. And we're going to be like, we're just going to do our best to deal with them every day. But I think one thing that saves me as a mother and just as a person is the ability to keep coming back and asking myself, not what am I looking for, what am I expecting, but like, what does this person offering
right now?
Because we're all doing the best with what we have right now, and that goes for my partner. It goes for my child who's struggling, right? It goes for, everyone. And we have to be able to ask that question. And we hope that people will ask that of us, right? We hope that when we lose it, we hope that our loved ones are looking for what we are trying to offer.
Because because I'm going to say this, and I'm going to give hopefully a lot of people permission to do this. We will lose it.
Totally.
Right? Like it's not about being that put together facade of a person all the time. Like,
no, it wasn't before. It wasn't ever. But if there was ever any question, hopefully it's a little bit more clear now that that's not really the point. And to be honest with you, when I see people who are doing that, I'm suspicious.
I am so suspicious of everybody who's rainbows and unicorns every day.
Totally.
And I love rainbows and unicorns.
It's not a complete truth. It's not a complete truth.
Yeah. And I think that, like, you know, as we begin to wrap down, like, I think that, you know, when you look at how I'm gonna mess this up, and I apologize for it, but you said it a lot more eloquently. But it was, you know, how is everybody showing up in this moment with what they have, right? Mm-hmm. And I think that when we apply that to ourselves, you know, we give ourselves space to being like, man, today I'm in my shit, and this is all I can show up with.
Yeah.
You know, how many boundaries can we actually create that serve us in that moment?
Yeah.
When we honestly acknowledge the fact that, you know, we're not in our best form. Like we're in this moment.
You know what I do? I don't know if this is helpful, but this is what I do. I give myself permission to lose my shit and then recollect it. And I let my family witness that. And so you know, it's funny because I do consulting on brain development, and I also do coaching with parents on, you know, raising children for optimal brain growth and things like that. And I talk a lot about the strategies that I feel like lead to success, but I also don't pretend that there's anything perfect or always pretty about it. And that's true, of course, in every relationship. But what I do, and this is something that I think I need to talk about more, is you know that when you're in that moment and you're going, oh fuck, here it comes, you know, it's about to blow, and you know how you like you feel yourself teetering on the edge, and then you go, wee! I
jump right in.
Right, jump on it. I mean, it's not like you're making a decision to lose your mind, but I feel like when we work on yoga, we do practice this ability of watching and observing what's happening. It doesn't mean that we prevent everything from happening. That's not the objective of yoga, at least not in this life, where we're living, right?
I think you and I would agree that the objective in that regard, the objective of yoga is to observe with no judgment.
Right. And learn from what we observe.
Yes.
We don't just also observe to go, oh, wasn't that, you know, theatrical or whatever. Like, but it's like we observe to learn about ourselves. And let me tell you,
it can be theatrical.
A couple of days ago, you would have paid for tickets to that show. I mean, literally, my kid said that was really scary, and I was like, well, you know, but
don't cross me.
It was, but the thing is that, like, you know, life is scary. So, I mean, like all of this stuff that's going on in all of us, it is a little bit scary right now, and we have to learn to deal with it. And so I feel like part of me as a yogi is watching to observe and to really learn, like as a form of self-study and as a form, you know, as a vehicle for, you know, increasing my empathy for myself and for others. But also I'm in the role, because we're talking about caregivers, I'm in the role of being a model, as you are, to other people. And I know they're watching, but the fact that I know they're watching doesn't make me filter everything and prevent my feelings that I'm having, which are deep and complicated, from coming up. What it does is it replaces a responsibility and a power in my hands to allow things to arise and to ask myself, how can I feel this? How can I experience this? How can I express it? And then how can I walk them through it? And how can we recover from it when it's not nice? Just like my children have a temper tantrum, and then, I totally go to them and let them recover. And then we talk it through, and then we say, like, that was really hard, right? Like, what happened? My son crawled into my arms a couple days ago and said, and he's the one who struggles. He has a lot going on. And he crawled into my arms and he said, Mama, why do I scream sometimes? Why does that happen? Why? And he literally said, this is like a moment I should have somehow been captured or drawn or written down or something. But he said, why do I scream like that sometimes? Why can't I just give you muchos hugs and kisses instead? That's what he said. He's 3. He's 3, And so my role is to be that person that provides the container of safety and love for him, and to say, it's okay to feel these big things. I'm going to help you hold them. I'm going to help you observe them. I'm going to help you get through them and deal with them. It's also my place to say, I have those big things too. I need you to help me hold them. I don't place that responsibility on them. They're too little. But you know what? I need them one day to be able to do that.
Well, I'm going to backtrack a little bit, because I actually think, and I might be going against every parenting tool book out there on this one, but I think when you are honest with your child or children in those really rough moments, you actually are leaning on them and you are teaching them to hold that space for you.
Yeah.
So even though you say that, they're children and they're too young to do this, I don't think they are, because this is something that, we are, as humans, we are, we're providers, we're nurturers, we are community, right? We are that group that stands with each other.
Yeah.
And we've lost that ability, the nuclear family, whatever you want to call it, that's lost the ability to really show up for another person in a way.
Yeah. In a hard way.
In a way that they're ready to be met.
Yeah. I totally agree with you, Darin, and it probably does contradict most of the parenting advice out there. But the thing is that we are not collectively building and raising a generation of children that are really emotionally capable to hold others, And so what we need to do is start working really hard on our emotional resilience. And that's a huge part of my model of what optimal brain growth actually requires. We have to be able to experience and feel hard things and use them in our self-development. And we do have to be able to lean on each other. And I absolutely do lean on them. And you're right. My children are 9 and 3. And I totally recognize that they have a deep capacity to love and help heal me. And again, the reason I say I don't place that on them is because it's not primarily their role to do that for me. It's primarily my role to do that for them. But that doesn't mean that they don't have any ability to.
I bet they show up for you in ways that are so beautiful. Hi.
They're showing up.
Mama.
Yeah.
Well,
Working when the sheet's not working.
That reel isn't working.
No.
Can we fix it?
Yeah.
Okay. You know what? In 2 more minutes, I'm going to help you fix this.
No.
Yeah.
Can I watch videos?
Okay, go ask Papa.
No, can I have it from you?
Okay, here we go. These are our coping skills here.
Let's go ahead and say this.
Mm-hmm.
Have an amazing Mother's Day tomorrow, Jess.
Thank
Thank you for inspiring me to be a better caregiver. And thank you for sharing your tips and your tricks and your failures at being a caregiver.
I'm happy to do that. And I feel the same about you. I feel that you inspire me to be a better caregiver. And I really think that this point is important to make in this conversation, is that, we all have that in us, and it's part of our job, no matter what we do. It's part of our job to be a caregiver at some point, and
part of being human.
Totally. And I feel like the more that we can, this is a big time for like kind of challenging for many of us. It's a big moment for challenging our ability to stay steady during hardship. But the thing is that we'll get through it, and then we still have that work to do, right? Yep. So I feel like it's a part of us that we share as people who are inherently nurturers and carers. And I hope that anyone who's celebrating Mother's Day tomorrow really, or even just thinking about it, it really just takes a moment to take that in and think that, that's not the point of that, is not just to, call your mother, or I don't know, buy
flowers.
Right. It's not. It's really to think about what is the meaning of that role, of the mothering role, of the nurturing, caregiving role. And if there's anything that I would ask for Mother's Day, is that people dig deep into that role, no matter who they are, no matter who they're caring for, and that we stay strong in that role, because we're going to need it.
And I'll add, no matter their gender, right? Like it's...
Absolutely. No matter the gender or their situation, because it really is an inherent part of all of us. So I think we should celebrate that in all of us tomorrow. That's my hope.
Okay. Thank you, Jess.
Thank you, Darin. Bye.